This video is going to be a multi-series video on a number of aspects of this desk. It's a 2-drawer desk. It's made of multi-woods. It's tiger maple and walnut with tiger maple pulls on the drawers and dovetails, hand-cut dovetails. The dimensions, as you can see, are 52 by 22, and it's high enough so that a chair can easily slide under it with a person sitting there. So we'll go into all the details of this and how to build it in the following videos. Thanks. Since I don't have a joiner plane, I use this, since I do have a joiner plane, but I don't have a joiner, I use this big plane, as you can see, and this is a beauty, nice blade in it. And I use that along with a very straight piece of ash that I ran through my surfacer and made sure that it was absolutely flat. So I just do that to start off with, get one edge very, very straight, and just use this kind of technique and then check it. And take off fine shavings like that. Then check it with my very straight edge to see what I got. And I've been working on this for a little while, so it's just right. And the next step is to run it through my table saw against that straight edge that I just made, and then I get another perfectly parallel edge on the other side of the board. I'll show you that right now. Same process for all of these boards because I'm going to make the top for the desk, so all these boards will go through the same process. So I don't want to show you that, I'll do that all offline. So once I have four squared all the boards, four squared means making sure that all the edges are parallel, and the boards are cut just a half an inch or 3/4 an inch longer, then I'll cut them off because they move when gluing. Now what I do is I don't glue it up, I just fit it up. And the whole idea is to lay these clamps underneath the board so it's got a flat surface to lay on. And then I bring the boards together, and if I see any unevenness, such as over here, there's just a slight rise, I clamp that end piece down to hold it in place. Sometimes it's necessary when we're doing that with the joints. There's a joint here, there's a joint here, there's another joint over here, and I have to lay a small piece underneath there to bring those down. You've already spent a lot of time making sure the grain patterns match across all the boards. Now you just want to make sure that everything is flat across all the joints and that everything fits well way before glue up. So now we put it in glue up. I put glue on all the joints just on one side, and then squished everything together, lined it up on this end over here, but I'll still cut that because you never get a perfectly straight edge. As you can see, I put blocks and clamps where the edges of the board, the joining of the board didn't quite become exact, and so I just pulled them back in place. Here I put little shims underneath this board and pulled it down. Did that on different locations around. We've got it cut to exactly 22 inches wide. So now we'll let it go and glue up and stay overnight, and Then we'll cut the ends. One of the things I didn't point out was I used this little vellum, little plastic sheet. The glue doesn't stick to it, and so when you pull the clamp up, if there's glue underneath, you don't rip out a portion of the board. That's a hard one lesson. I do that in all of the little places where I have glue, and you can see, and so that really works well. So now what we've done is we've taken all the clamps out. It's dried overnight, and we've sanded it down. We've chipped off the glue droppings. Just use a little chisel like that to knock them down, and then I sand with 60 grit and then go to 220, and that makes a nice smooth surface. It's hard for you to see that, but it is nice and smooth. I had minimal misjointing between the boards because I was very careful about how I put it together. The more time you spend on doing that and getting everything to line up perfectly and getting straight boards, the easier it is to do the final product. But anyway, that's sanded on both sides, and next we'll make the apron and legs. I wanted to show you the layout for the desk that I'm building with the apron and the legs shown in position here. I'm trying a little bit different method to preserve the grain of the wood. So this piece that you can see right down here has been cut, and it's the size that I want. It's longer than the distance between the legs, as you can see, but it was all cut out of one piece of wood. So this is a drawer front, this is a side piece, this is a middle piece, this is a drawer front, and this is another side piece. And then there's a top and a bottom to that, and they're all cut out of the same piece of wood, so it preserves the grain. So when these drawers are built, you won't be able to see any difference between the grains. You can see how the grain just flows across here and across here. It's quite nice. In order to do that, I have to very carefully build the drawers and then actually cut them down this distance a little bit to make sure that fits properly. And then when I do the glue up, I'll show you that process after I do it. It's a very careful process to preserve the distances between the various pieces so that everything fits nicely. For those that wish to have some dimensions, here's an idea, or here's a sketch drawing. The drawers are 16 inches wide. The board width is 4 1/4. The top and bottom pieces are 7/8, and the drawer itself is 2.5 inches tall. So that's the process now, and we'll check with this later when we see one of the drawers being built. Now what you see is the drawers that are inserted into the pieces of wood, the front apron that's cut for this, and you can see that they fit quite well. This hasn't been glued up yet, but look at the grain pattern, how the grain pattern matches across that, which is of course what we were trying to achieve, and the same thing on the other side. It just looks very nice. Now the drawers themselves, I'll just show you those a minute. There have been half-blind dovetails with bottoms made of plywood, 1/4 inch plywood, and then dovetailed in the rear as well, but half blinds on both sides. So those are the drawers, and they're both identical. So that's what we got so far.